Good morning, folks. Ken Ring of www.predictweather.com. It's the 2nd of July. The moon is in Pisces. There it is there as it looks when it's between moonrise and moonset. And Pisces is just before the equator. So if you look over here, you'll see there's a white line around here. And the moon is heading that way, which is north. But at the moment, it's just this side, which is the southern end. And so it hasn't yet crossed the equator, but it's going to be crossing the equator tomorrow and heading north. And Pisces is the sign of fogs and mist and drizzle. It's a water sign, which is why it's represented as a fish symbol. So for some places, there is water around. In New Zealand, I'm expecting a bit of rain, precipitation up north by the weekend, but really not that much. And generally over the next 2 weeks, we've got a fairly dry time for New Zealand for the first half of July. But anyway, what's happening in terms of the moon is that it's crossing the equator tomorrow, heading north. It's also waning, and the last quarter moon will be on Monday. So any showers will be in the afternoon because that's when the moon's out of the sky. The moon will be in the sky in the mornings, and you'll see it as a D shape in the southern hemisphere and as a C shape in the northern hemisphere. Now, there's just been a hurricane in Mexico, Hurricane Alex, and these hurricanes and cyclones, they're always triggered by full moons in the hurricane season. They form around the equator, and they form because around the full moon in the summertime is the hottest time of the month, because with the air being lower due to the air tide, the sun's heat comes closer to the ground, heats up in this case the sea, heats up a whole lot, makes it evaporate quickly, and so you get a whole lot of water going up aloft, and there's extra turbulence around, and it whips itself into a cyclone. Now, they form north of the equator, and if the moon is moving north, then they'll be carried north as well. They'll also form south of the equator. They'll never cross the equator, these hurricanes and cyclones, well, really anyway. It's always within 6 degrees of the equator normally. And if they form south of the equator and move south, then the moon comes down over the southern hemisphere. Well, Hurricane Alex was of the first type. It formed north of the equator and moved slightly north. And it's going to happen again round about the 26th of July, because that'll be the full moon again. And the same conditions will apply. Well, at the moment, the hurricanes aren't all that severe, because the moon, when it's at its perigee, which is the most powerful, is still north of the equator. See, this perigee position moves up and down between the latitudes, takes about 8.85 years to do a whole circuit of it, and the perigees have been just north of the equator over the past year. But next year, the perigee is going to occur right on the equator. And that means the hurricanes and the cyclones will increase in number and intensity. You'll also notice there was an earthquake in Mexico as well a couple of days ago. So why is the moon bothering Mexico, you might ask? Well, the full moon was at 25 degrees latitude, and Mexico starts off around 25 degrees north at the northern end, and on the 30th the moon was at 16 degrees because it was going further north, and the big earthquake happened at 16 degrees latitude, which was, the other end of Mexico. So although the moon was in the negative in terms of latitude, it doesn't matter. Latitude for latitude still seems to have an effect on places that are along those lines. So it's just something interesting to watch. For example, the Tiano earthquake in New Zealand, there was also a great big low off in the Tasman at the same time as the earthquake. So you're getting the same thing here with the Mexican earthquake plus the hurricane. And it's quite an interesting thing to watch the weather maps and see where these big L's are with the circles around them. If there's an earthquake fault line somewhere around there, there's generally earthquakes popping off around in that region as well. Because the moon's got no eyes or brain, it doesn't know where the where it's exerting its turbulence effect, but the air and the sea and the water are pretty well all being affected at the same time. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope I catch you tomorrow.